From downtown Detroit, Local 4 Live starts right now.
Hey everybody, thank you for joining us for Local 4 Live. I'm Nick Monticelli. Plenty to talk about in the next 2 hours here, starting with a look at ExactTrack 40 radar. Plenty of green over there causing some flooding issues throughout Metro Detroit. To start your Wednesday, Ashley is going to track how long that rain is going to stay in our forecast, plus where the flooding is actually happening. And then we're heading to Lansing, 1 week until a possible government shutdown in the state. We're going to talk about what could happen if there is a shutdown, plus how schools are trying to get through it. And then you might need to grab your rain jacket on your morning walk, but you don't have to walk as far anymore. We're talking with the doctor about why 7,000 steps is the new 10,000. All right, first we're going to kick things off with the one and only Ashley Barrissey. You have had a very busy morning. Things like the warnings and watches started popping up, and you've been going at it.
Right, and you know, flooding needs to be taken very seriously. I mean, it wasn't all that long ago we saw what happened down in Texas with the flash flooding, and I certainly don't want to sensationalize our flash flood warning, but I do want to bring attention to how serious it can be. And so ExactTrack 4D, the problem is we have had that pocket of heavy rain down by Monroe and in portions of Washtenaw County that has just been parked there for hours. And so now we're starting to see all that accumulate. You even see some of those raindrops there right below me on our camera lens. But flash flood warning does remain in effect for another hour for this portion of Washtenaw County. So this is going to be the area right around Stony Creek and Paint Creek, and it includes Willis, Whitaker, just north of Milan. And so that's an area where you want to make sure that you're taking precautions. If you're in a low-lying area, you want to take to higher ground, even in your vehicle, because it doesn't take long with overflowing creeks and streams to wash away vehicles. You only need about 12 inches of standing water for that to happen. And radar indicated we picked up 4 inches of rainfall. So then you add that to what's overflowing in the streams, and you can get much more than that standing on the roadways. Flood watch. So that's going to be the next thing that we're worried about here for Wayne, Oakland, and also Macomb counties, the heart of the metro area. And so that watch until 8 o'clock tonight, because we anticipate rounds of wet weather today. And so this is the analogy I use when we have watches and warnings. A watch means you have all the ingredients there, but it's not quite active. A warning is like you took everything out of the oven and you have what you baked. So now we're going to keep a close eye on the areas under that watch as the rain will be lifting north into that area. We already see some of the rain on our Windsor sky cam. 66 degrees in the city, 64 in Ann Arbor, 65 in Pontiac, and 66 down into Monroe. Very mild start to the day, but we're probably only getting about 5 degrees warmer. So not a big swing, 71 for the high. So cooler than where we've been, Nick, but seasonal. But we will have more rain in the forecast, which will time out coming up in the main weather in just a few minutes. Right.
So I guess that my question then becomes, you look at these watches and warnings, will they extend? Will they expire? More rain? What happens?
Right. I would anticipate right now that flash flood warning to likely expire at 9, just because we've seen the intensity of that rain kind of dwindle in Washtenaw County. What I'm surprised is that we haven't seen a warning pop in Monroe for how much rain that we have received down there, over 3 inches that have been radar indicated just throughout the morning. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see something there. That comes from the National Weather Service, but that watch likely will stay in effect till 8 o'clock, because after 4 o'clock all the way through the dinner hour, we could have more scattered showers across the area.
Okay, Ashley, thank you much. Now to the budget battle playing out in Lansing. Lawmakers have just 1 week to agree on a budget, or the government will shut down. Both sides are at a stalemate right now in the legislature. Last month, House Republicans passed a $54.5 billion spending plan. They say will cut waste, fraud, and abuse in the state government and redirect the dollars to priorities like public safety and more than $3 billion to repair the state's crumbling bridges and roads. Governor Whitmer says she has her own $3 billion plan that will create a sustainable source of funding for road and infrastructure repairs, but Republicans are not on board. Last week, we talked to the former state budget director under Governor Snyder on what we could face if a shutdown happens.
Some of it is just annoying, right? Maybe state parks being closed, drawbridges being up. If you're dealing with state government waiting for a business license or something like that, that may be delayed. The bigger worry is this could impact the state's credit rating. Credit rating agencies look very closely at things like budget instability. Are you getting your work done on time?
Now, both sides are on the same page about one thing, and that's their optimism a deal will be done in time. To talk more about that budget, we are joined by Jordan Hermany. She is a Capitol reporter for Bridge, Michigan. Jordan, thank you again for joining us. What are you hearing in terms of what they think is going to be accomplished in both the House and the Senate.
Well, so to your point, the optimism is the key, right? I mean, we have two budgets out of the House and the Senate controlled by Democrats, the House controlled by Republicans, that are several $billions apart. The Senate Democrats are proposing in all, including with schools, which are a separate budget from funding the entire state government, an $84.5 billion budget out of the Senate and a $78.5 billion budget out of the House. Roads has been a big issue, as you've noted. And for right now, it's looking like it's crunch time. I'm totally anticipating that we're going to see them doing long session days this week and potentially even adding more to the calendar, like we saw this past Monday with the Senate having a rare in-person session day on a Monday, which is not typical for Lansing.
Right. You know, a lot of the frustration from this process comes because there are committees and things that are not done behind closed doors, but we don't always understand what the holdups are until things get to the floor. And then even then, sometimes it's difficult to understand. Do you have any kind of a finger on a pulse on the key holdups from both parties?
So that's an interesting question that you ask, and by and large, it's a number of things, right? So we go back to the roads plan. Governor Whitmer has announced a $3 billion plan to try and repair the state's crumbling roads and bridges. The House has passed, as we noted earlier, its own roads plan, and the Senate, meanwhile, has said, we don't need multiple plans. What we need to do is just pick something, stick with it. But first and foremost, we need to fund the state budget. So, you know, that's one of the big sticking points right now. Roads, there's only so much money to go around. And then there's another, you know, multiple other finite, smaller, but no less important issues going around as well, any number of which could be a sticking point for a divided legislature.
Right. So speaking of a divided legislature, in your opinion, which I know we're journalists don't have opinions, but sometimes when you cover a beat long enough, you can form one, at least get an idea behind it. Are the issues here budget-based or are they party-based?
I want to say, you know, it's a bit of both, because I don't think you can decouple one without the other. You've heard lawmakers say multiple times that a budget is a living document. It emphasizes our priorities, our values. So in that regard, you know, it is a little bit of politics as well, because we have the Republican budget, which out of the House, they're saying we want to cut back. First and foremost, we have to cut back. We're already having economists tell us that, for instance, the Senate budget, it's already $1.1 billion bigger than what we could afford to stand with the new federal spending bill that was recently signed into law. And so they're looking at cutting. They're looking at reducing what they're calling waste, fraud, and abuse. Senate Democrats, meanwhile, are choosing to emphasize and put money into things that they view as high priority. So things like education, which is also not to imply that the Republican plan does not emphasize education as well. But, you know, so we go back to this, it's a living, breathing document. And it's really hard for folks to say that, you know, we're going to cut here, we're going to not cut there. But at the end of the day, everybody's going to have to make concessions, because you can't have one chamber just passing a budget on its own.
Right, right. So do you feel that sense of urgency yet, or does that start to come when we're like 72 hours out?
I mean, I definitely think the sense of urgency is there this week already, if the number of text messages I've received is anything to go by. And I think that it's only going to increase in the coming days. I do want to be incredibly clear. You know, we've had shutdowns in the past before. We've had 2 within the last 20 years, but those lasted hours. I believe the 2007 one lasted approximately 4 hours. So even if we get to that point, which obviously the goal is to not get to that point in the first place, you know, the past precedent would suggest that this is something that lawmakers do have the ability to work quickly through and resolve for the people of Michigan.
Yeah. Okay, Jordan, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, I want to talk to you much more about school funding. So stay with us. We'll be back in 1 minute. Welcome back to Local 4 Live. A budget battle in Lansing happening right now with a week left to come to an agreement. While roads is a main focus of the budget, another big issue that could take a hit in Lansing if Lansing shuts down, schools. Schools already worried about operating without state funding, and there's the possibility of layoffs and using whatever reserves they have. Last month on Local 4 Live, we had a group of superintendents, a panel. They had a lot to say about this ongoing budget battle.
Like, your policy decisions and what you do tells me everything I need to know about how you feel about the kids I serve. And I'm not feeling really great on either side of the aisle right now.
School meals right now, we only have a guarantee that school meals will be available for all until September 30th. And so that would be a cost. We have to make a decision as a school district.
This is a Democrat problem, it's a Republican problem, and the governor shares responsibility on this as well. And I'm going to go out there and say that. She is the leader of this state, and there's a way that she needs to bring people inside and in the office and say, look, we got to figure this out. Where are the differences and how do we move forward, because this is ludicrous.
Now, in terms of school meals, let's check on what some schools are doing if a budget is not passed. Northville Schools just agreed to keep its free meal program going until at least October 31st. And Utica Schools also has funding until the end of October. Both Dearborn and Detroit schools are federally funded, so they're not affected. But Ann Arbor and Bloomfield Hills schools say it will only be able to provide free and reduced meals to students who qualify. Finally, Plymouth Canton says they'll have the same thing, reducing free and reduced meals based on income. Some schools will keep offering them. Other schools in the district will switch to standard pricing. So let's bring back in Jordan Hermany. She is a Capitol reporter for Bridge, Michigan. Jordan, you know, there was a conversation early on when the budget discussions began that the legislature could at least pass the education portion of the budget so schools knew what they were doing. What happened there?
Well, I think it comes down to negotiation tactics. I mean, why give up a card that you could play or something that you could use to hold leverage when you don't have other parts of the budget decided? You know, the legislature does have a statutory deadline of July 1, excuse me, which they put back into law during the Snyder administration as a point to try and give schools clarity. Now, that deadline basically says, hey, legislature, you need to pass a school budget by July 1st, so that way we can give our schools some level of stability. However, there's no teeth attached to missing that deadline, so lawmakers don't really have an incentive. And as we've kind of seen with this legislature this year, they don't work well unless under pressure, in my opinion. You know, we can look to the number of bills passed this year, many of which were done only under a deadline. We've seen that number kind of increase recently, but this is a legislature that works under pressure, and now that pressure is coming with the October 1st constitutional deadline.
Right. Is there a point of embarrassment at all for either the House or the Senate or both when you know that schools are floundering, not knowing how to run their year, and free meals could be running out and things aren't going well and it's their fault?
So I think that again kind of goes back to the politics of things. You know, is it your fault or is it the opposition's fault? You know, we've heard a decent amount of finger pointing from Democrats and Republicans saying, you know, well, if we had passed our budget, or Republicans who had floated earlier this term what they were calling a government shutdown prevention plan, which would fund the government at a bare bones minimum level until a finalized state budget could be put in place, which was sharply rebuked and rejected by Senate Democrats. You know, so now we're here. Now we're stuck with waiting for whether or not we're going to see something passed by October 1st. And at the moment, they do seem to be coming together, but that doesn't mean that the finger pointing still isn't happening, especially online.
Right. I've heard from a lot of people who say, at the very least, you could have gotten it together for the kids. Which, to your point, though, I think there's just going to be finger pointing instead of anybody having a conversation. Is there any heightened urgency on that note, though, because of what's happening in schools, or does it just go back to, well, we have this deadline we're working on now?
I mean, I think we're at the point in time where everything is urgent. Obviously, nobody wants to have school children caught in the middle of things, but at this point, with just a week left until October 1st, everything is of the same level of kind of 5-alarm fire right now. And so that's kind of where things stand. I mean, I know educators have been trying to rally outside the Capitol. I believe there are some even going to be there today with an educators union urging folks to pass the budget. And it's crunch time. We're stuck not really knowing necessarily where lawmakers are at in this budget decision, but we have to think it's coming because, again, October 1 is just around the corner.
Yeah. Jordan, I imagine you'll probably be setting up your cot and just staying at the Capitol for the next couple of days.
I'm fortunate enough that I live close by, so thankfully can probably get a bed, but not much sleep.
There you go. Okay, Jordan, thank you so much for your insight, and I can't wait to see what happens in Lansing over the next couple of days here.
Thank you for having me.
Let's get to Washington, D.C. now, where lawmakers also in the middle of budget talks. Their federal funding also set to run out on October 1st. The Republican-led House passed a short-term bill to keep the government open until November 21st. The Senate rejected that and the Democrats' proposals. President Trump was scheduled to meet with Democratic leaders yesterday, I should say. He canceled, saying on social media the demands were unserious and ridiculous. Okay, 8:17 here on Wednesday. The spooky season is upon us, and it might cost an arm and a leg to buy those fake arms and legs for your decorations. A look at just how frightening Halloween costs are this year. Plus, a live look over in Belleville, a very, very rainy Wednesday. Ashley is tracking how long we're going to see this rain as Mother Nature decides fall is officially in play. Welcome back to Local 4 Live, 8:19 here on Wednesday morning. The big story of the day is the weather, not only because we have flooding issues, but the rain continues and the hair won't cooperate.
You can see right here. It's like trying to spray and it's like all out of place. I don't know. I've given up. That's the least of my worries right now because some folks, I mean, they need to be checking their basement.
Ooh, it's that kind of day.
It is that kind of day. When you're picking up, upward of 3 inches of rain in some spots, I mean, that's going to be hard for the sump pumps to keep up with. So rainfall totals, I mean, here is a good illustration of just where that moisture just parked over a portion of Metro Detroit. So upward of 3 inches in areas of Washtenaw and a good chunk of Monroe County. And I mentioned just a little while ago, I'm surprised that we don't have any active alerts to bring you in Monroe. There was an advisory at one point this morning that lifted a little more than a half hour ago. And so we're still dealing with rain in the area, adding to those totals. But the flash flood warning still continues across a portion of Washtenaw County, at least for another 40 minutes. And so that's where we have that flash flooding occurring close to Stony Creek, Paint Creek. And once again, that should lift in about 40 minutes, but we'll continue with some flooding concerns. So here are the impacts. When you get that amount of rain in a short amount of time, In rural areas that are close to those creeks that I just mentioned or rivers, well, the streams, the riverbeds, they start to rise. And so that's going to add to the standing water because they will overflow. And then you have all the rain that came down accumulating as well. And that can cause the flooding concerns on pavement and by your home. Now, as you get into more of the urban area, your city areas, well, water can penetrate soil easier than pavement. So when there's more concrete, well, that excessive rain then overwhelms storm drainage systems. And so we've seen that over the course of the last couple months here and there. I mean, especially close to Metro Airport where we had a couple days of flooding on roadways. And so we don't have that actively right now, but in anticipation of some of that rain throughout the day today, flood watch was issued till 8 o'clock tonight for Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb counties. So that's the most populated portion of southeastern Michigan that will be looking at the possibility of some flooding. Now, the heaviest rain, as I put this into motion, has been down in Monroe, still persisting down in that area, but you can see multiple lightning strikes that have pushed off towards Ontario. So the rumbles of thunder probably off across the river, but once again, those rainfall totals anywhere in that 3 to 4 inch range. So Exact Track 4D live, we're keeping that rain just south of Canton. So now inching into a portion of Wayne County, and it does have that northerly lift. And so it's going to be the city of Detroit off towards Macomb County that we'll start to see this next. 60s right now. We haven't really fluctuated much with temperatures. In fact, we're not going to see a big swing as the day rolls on because our afternoon high should be right around 70 or 71. So we only rise a few degrees, but showers and storms will be off and on as the day goes on. So model data kind of has this waning by noon. It's underplayed the morning a little bit, so I still think there could be a shower or two around, just not as heavy. And then by 3, 4 o'clock onward, we get more of those pockets of heavy downpours that develop. And so that's why I do believe that the watch is until about 8 o'clock tonight in anticipation of what could develop this afternoon. So we're seasonal today. 71 is where we should be at this point in time, and 73, another seasonal day tomorrow. But then as we dry things out, we welcome sunshine by Friday, holding on to it through the weekend. We will get close to 80 thanks to that sunshine warming things up. So if you're heading to the Lions game Sunday, that 1 o'clock kickoff, some early tailgating, boy, is it going to be really pleasant out there.
Ooh, all right. I'll see you there.
Yeah, well, I wish.
All right. We'll go together.
Are you reporting it or are you going?
I haven't decided yet.
Oh. Nick's big time. He could make those decisions.
Yeah, sure. All right, thanks, Ash. We're going to come back here in just a minute with Local 4 News update. Plus, if you're getting out to walk the dog or go for a morning run, first of all, it's going to be pretty wet and rainy, but you don't need to go as far as you previously thought to get all your steps in. We're talking with the doctor about why 7,000 is the new 10,000. Good morning, everybody. I'm Nick Monticelli. Today, a man accused of verbally attacking families at a synagogue will be sentenced on a federal gun charge. Hassan Choker is accused of unleashing an anti-Semitic tirade at parents dropping off their kids in Bloomfield Hills back in 2022. When he was asked to leave, he drove to a Dearborn gun store and lied about his eligibility to have firearms. Earlier this year, he pleaded guilty to being in possession of that firearm. He faces up to 15 years in prison. We also have another 90 minutes on Local 4 Live. Next, busting that 10,000 step myth. A doctor from Henry Ford Health explains why 7,000 steps is now enough. Then we're talking about job hugging, clinging on to jobs because people are worried about the economy and the job market. And finally, coming back to Michigan after 25 years. We're talking with someone from the National Shrine of the Little Flower about the relics of St. Therese of Lisieux coming back to Metro Detroit.
From downtown Detroit, Local 4 Live starts right now.
Welcome back to Local 4 Live, 8:29 here on Wednesday morning. The big topic of discussion today, the weather. It has been a rainy start to the day. Flash flood warnings and watches in effect for some of our counties. Ashley Barrissey, away from the desk over at the Green Wall with your forecast. Hey, Ash.
Hey, yeah, and so here we are with a big green box indicating a flash flood warning for Washtenaw County. Now, this came in a couple hours ago, but will persist for about another half an hour, where we do have some flooding occurring by Stony Creek, Paint Creek, and so the flash flooding concerns will roll on for a little while longer, but we have flooding concerns that will last into other portions of our viewing area well throughout the day due to rounds of rain. And so let's talk about rural impacts. If you are joining us from more of an outlying area, excessive rainfall will raise the streams of rivers and also can cause, flash flooding close to homes that are by those creeks. And so that's what we're seeing over into portions of Washtenaw County. Otherwise, we have urban impacts as well. So water can penetrate soil easier than pavement, and that overwhelms storm drainage systems. So fingers crossed we don't see that across our populated area, but we do have a flood watch that remains in effect effect until 8 o'clock tonight for Oakland, Macomb, and Wayne counties. And so as we take a closer look at what's outside, Exact Track 4D picking up several lightning strikes that is just east of the city. So that's pushing into portions of Ontario where we still have quite a bit of rain in that northern tier of Monroe County, starting to just now cross Wayne County with some of the heavier rainfall totals. And this is radar indicated, but the area under that warning we talked about in Washtenaw, over 4 inches of rain and between about 3 to 4 inches in portions of Monroe County. So temperature wise, we're not going to warm up a whole lot today. We're only going to rise a couple degrees, but we'll time out when some of this heavier rain continues to lift north. That's coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, Ashley, thank you so much. Let's take a live look over in Mount Clemens this morning. If you're looking to get that walk in before work, first of all, bring the umbrella and a rain jacket. But it turns out you don't need to get as many steps as you might have previously thought. A recent study suggests 7,000 is the new 10,000 when it comes to your step count. 7,000 steps or around 3 miles can give you a boost in health benefits like lowering your risk of heart disease and dementia. Experts also say it's not just about how many steps you take, but how you walk. Try adding some hills, stairs, or picking up the pace to get even more benefits. So joining us to explain why 10,000 is out, 7,000 is in, Dr. Dennis Kerrigan. He's a senior clinical exercise physiologist for Henry Ford Health. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so why the change? Why are we going from 7,000 to 10, or from 10 to 7,000?
Well, I mean, 10,000 steps has really been an arbitrary number. I mean,
we just picked it.
I mean, it looks good on your Fitbit, right? And as I tell my patients, there's nothing magical about 10,000 steps. We know that, any kind of activity is good for us. So if you go from 2,000 steps to 4,000 steps, you're going to see a bump in your health. Kind of where we start to level off, though, is around 7,000. Oh. So, but that's actually equivalent to what we see in terms of the public health guidelines of doing 30 minutes every day.
Okay.
So that's kind of the equivalent of 7,000 steps.
Gotcha. We talked earlier that I have seen some stories and some studies suggesting something similar over the past year and several months, but this kind of takes everything into account and really says, yeah, this is real?
Yeah, well, this takes a whole bunch of studies together, so it gives you more power to look at things like dementia, like heart disease and cancer. Okay. And certainly there's some nuance to when we look at, do you get more benefit from more steps when it comes to weight loss? Possibly, yeah. But like I said, you start to get diminishing returns. And so nothing to take away for someone who's doing 10,000 steps. Sure. That's fantastic. Right. If you can do more, that's great. But again, it's not something that, you're not going to get any benefits if you're doing 8,000. Of course you will. So,
gotcha. Okay. My next question was, is there the next threshold? So 7 to 10,000, not that big of a deal, but say we jump up to 20,000, is that like the next benchmark, or do we not know?
Well, the problem when we start to look at individuals who have that many steps is there's not that many individuals with that. So I think from a research standpoint, it's challenging to be able to discern that part of it.
Right. Okay. So my understanding, and you're the doctor, I'm not, is that it's less about the steps and more about the quality of the steps. Is that fair?
Well, we don't want to forget about the aspect of intensity or cadence of steps. And so we know that, doing it more of a brisk walk can give you some benefits that, doing a slow walk can't. So we definitely want to encourage that a couple days a week that individuals are trying to push themselves a little bit, at least to the point where they're feeling their heart rate go up, their breathing go up. Sure. So where you can really see those cardiovascular benefits and improve your fitness.
So what is it about? Because I always hear that some of the best exercise is just getting out and walking, just starting to do that. Why is it that simple thing is kind of that gateway into better health?
Well, I think it's accessible to most of us, right? And yeah, when you look at things like, individuals who are able to lose weight and keep it off, more than 75% of those individuals choose walking as their main form of exercise.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay. I've also heard that sometimes adding things into that walk, whether it be some weights that you're holding or swinging your arms or weighted backpacks are kind of a big trend right now. What are your thoughts on some of those add-ons?
Well, I do caution my patients sometimes with some of these trends because you want to be careful it's not going to affect your gait where, it could cause an injury or anything like that. Right. Also, when we talk about getting 10,000 steps, that doesn't include doing strength training, which is another important component that's going to improve your bones, your metabolism, other aspects that you don't get with walking.
Gotcha. Okay, so kind of going back to what you said earlier about the intensity of the walk. How do you know when it's enough for exercise versus just kind of strolling down the path?
Well, a good rule of thumb is what's called the talk test.
Okay.
So if you're trying to exercise and you can't have a conversation with the person next to you, especially if you're just starting off, you're probably pushing yourself a little bit too much. You want to back off a little bit so you can still be able to talk while you're exercising.
Got it. Okay. Dr. Kerrigan, thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for
I'm
having
losing
me.
my voice as we talk to you, but I'm not even moving. All right. Thank you much.
All right. Thanks.
Returning to late night, Jimmy Kimmel returns to the air, cracking jokes and getting emotional. That's next. Welcome back. Jimmy Kimmel returned to his ABC late night show last night, almost a week after being pulled off the air. Not all of the nation could watch it, though, because two of the largest TV station owners chose not to carry it. Kimmel used his return last night to defend free speech. While his suspension is over, though, it might be the start of a larger clash between ABC and the Trump administration.
Anyway, as I was saying before I was interrupted,
Jimmy Kimmel Live is back after a nearly week-long suspension. Disney says it objected to the host's comments after Charlie Kirk's murder. Kimmel addresses that in his return monologue.
I don't think the murderer who shot Charlie Kirk represents anyone. This was a sick person who believed violence was a solution, and it isn't. Ever.
Kimmel is also defending free speech with humor.
The guy in Germany offered me a job. Can you imagine? This country has become so authoritarian, the Germans are like, come here.
Some repeat audience members say this taping felt different.
There was a gravity, but also happiness of just being back.
Disney says it lifted the suspension after, quote, thoughtful conversations with Jimmy. Critics claim it originally caved to President Donald Trump. He says Kimmel's return on ABC, quote, puts the network in jeopardy. He adds, quote, we are going to test ABC out on this. Sinclair and Nexstar Media are continuing to preempt the show on their stations. The FCC chair applauds them for what he calls standing up to a national programmer. The preemptions are a financial hit for Disney, but some analysts say a boycott from Kimmel fans would have been worse.
Money was the impetus for the first decision and pulling Jimmy Kimmel off the air, and money is the impetus for returning him.
Now, President Trump's post also suggests he'll extract a financial price for Kimmel's return. He wrote, quote, "Last time I went after them, they gave me $16 million. This one sounds even more lucrative." Let's take a live look at the stocks futures board this morning. Futures looking up right now following a slide yesterday. That slide came after Fed Reserve Chair Jerome Powell spoke on an economic outlook luncheon where he underscored lower unemployment and high inflation, leaving the central bank with a no risk-free path.
Tariff increases will likely take some time to work their way through supply chains. As a result, this one-time increase in the price level will likely be spread over several quarters and show up as somewhat higher inflation during that period. But uncertainty around the path of inflation remains high. We will carefully assess and manage the risk of higher and more persistent inflation. We'll make sure that this one-time increase in prices does not become an ongoing inflation problem.
Well, Wall Street is now counting down until the release of the Fed's preferred inflation gauge, the Personal Consumption Expenditures Index. This shows how prices are changing and gives a clue about the health of our economy. Well, the spooky season is in full swing, but there is a different fright to worry about. Let's take a look at Salem this morning. The witches may be brewing spells, but the Halloween costs are spellbindingly high. We're going to break down those numbers next. Let's head to Salem, Massachusetts, one of the Halloween capitals of the U.S. as spooky season gets closer. But here's something really frightening. Halloween costs are going up this year. According to the National Retail Federation, Americans are expected to shell out more than $13 billion this Halloween. That's about $114 per person. The area with the most spending, costumes at $4.34 billion. That's going to be spent, followed by decorations and then candy. The amount of money Americans will spend on candy this year, nearly $4 billion. And a lot of that has to do with climate issues many people around the world are dealing with. It's making the price of chocolate skyrocket.
Fortunately, the prices have gone up. And I think the main reason for them going up is, the critical ingredient in chocolates, which is cocoa, less amount of rain, which has affected the crops. There's also been a virus that has been going through that has affected production. If you compare year over year, which is probably the right way to think about it, the prices are up, and they're up by, double-digit percentages.
My gosh, not the chocolate. Please don't affect my chocolate. Hershey's has announced they are going to raise prices soon. The good news is the company is going to wait until after Halloween. The bad news is Christmas is right around the corner. Now let's talk about Halloween candy for just a second here. Take a look at this photo. It shows America's favorite candy by state, according to DoorDash. DoorDash looked at the most popular, the top candies are naturally Reese's peanut butter cups and M&Ms, but look at what it says Michigan's favorite candy was. The Twizzler Twist. Really? I don't know about that one. All right, Ashley is here with your forecast. Really?
I mean, I don't want to hate on the Twizzler.
I do like the Twizzler.
But that's not, I already told you, I love the
peanut butter. Yes,
yeah,
you're the
peanut butter
Reese's.
chocolate. Yeah, Reese's all day, every day.
Okay, that actually had me thinking. When you go to like DQ or someplace, your favorite local ice cream place, you're going to get a shake. Do you like the chocolate peanut butter?
So like a Flurry or Blizzard type of thing, like if you can get something in it.
Yes.
So my go-to, I would love that, but my go-to is a peanut butter cookie dough.
Oh.
Because I like cookie dough, then you get the peanut butter.
Right. So you are peanut butter all the way then?
I really do like
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do the kids like peanut butter?
They do. They'll eat it like by the spoonful. Now I can't do that because just the texture like dries out your mouth. Like that's not my thing. But yeah, the flavor in anything, especially when you add a little sugar to it.
Oh, of course.
Like Reese's, it's a sugary.
And I'm sure your husband taught them how to do it with the spoon. It wasn't you.
Probably. I don't know. These kids.
It's Grandma and Grandpa. Like, you did what with the peanut butter?
I know. I make them actually a chocolate peanut butter smoothie every morning. Yes, like with like a protein.
Every morning?
Every morning
So
before
like
I leave.
1 a.m. you're making a smoothie?
I am, and I put them in the fridge and they have them when they wake up.
Mom of the year over here.
But on
Can
the
I
weekends,
add to the order? Can you bring one in for me too?
Sure, I'll just be making a bunch of them. But on the weekends, what's the special treat is they can make it with me, and then that's when they get the peanut butter spoon.
Okay,
I mean, that thing's in the sink and clean, when they wake up.
That's a lot. What time do you get up then?
I wake up at 1:30.
Wow. Smoothie making. That can't be done the night before?
No, because you have ice in it, and so then it would really melt. There's probably already a little melting going on by the time they wake up. But
okay. You have spoiled those kids, that's for sure.
That is for sure. One day I hope they are grateful. All right. And then just make sure you tell my kids I don't make the weather. They said that to my mom one day.
Oh, really?
They were like, Mimi, Mommy makes the weather. She's like, no, she doesn't.
Only on the good days.
That's right. Yeah. So today, not a great day because we are dealing with the rain. Scattered showers across the area have been heavy at times, especially south of that I-94 corridor. And so that's where we have definitely picked up some flooding, and the flooding concerns will remain as the day rolls on. Now, we can have a stray shower tomorrow. We're still going to have a lot of remnant moisture, but we will overall be drying things out. Not nearly as active of a pattern tomorrow as today. And then certainly bringing back the sunshine Friday through the weekend, and some warmer temperatures coming with that sunshine. Here's a look at ExactTrack 4D. I mean, I could have probably taken a snapshot of this at 5:30 in the morning and it wouldn't look a whole lot different than what I'm showing you right now. And that's the problem. We just haven't seen a whole lot of movement with the rain that we've had. Pretty steady light rain across a good portion of southeastern Michigan, but the heaviest fell in portions of Washtenaw County and down in Monroe, which has led to a flash flood warning over by Stony Creek, Paint Creek in Washtenaw County. And hopefully in about 10 minutes, we'll see that warning lift. Otherwise, a flood watch, I should say, for the heart of the metro area. So this is our most populated portion of southeastern Michigan, Wayne, Oakland, Macomb counties, until 8 o'clock tonight. That's because we will have more rounds of rain in the forecast. So today, it's a soggy one. You see the raindrops coming from Windsor. Looking at the downtown skyline, 66 in the city, 64 in Ann Arbor, 65 in Pontiac, and 66 down in Monroe. Kind of light variable wind out there. We only rise about 5 degrees today, so 71 for the afternoon high. Here's the deal. It's cooler than the last few days, but this is really where we should be at this point in September. So it's a seasonal day, but it is going to be a wet one. You need that umbrella off and on throughout the day. Wipers wipers on, wipers off. So as we head into the afternoon, wax on, wax off. So here's a look at the rest of the day. Hopefully around noon we get a little break. So if you are wanting to try to run out on the lunch hour, maybe you don't have to dodge as many of the raindrops, but they will be building back in through the afternoon and early evening. So holding on to the scattered variety that could have a few embedded heavy downpours. And then there is those stray shower chances for your Thursday. And so let's quickly talk about current fall foliage. I've talked a lot about flooding today. I want to talk about the fall colors. And so here is a current report nationally where we do have color across the state, but inching awfully close to peak in the UP. And a week from now, the projection is the western edge of the UP would be at peak, where we have color across lower Michigan. And so we'll continue to keep a close eye on how those leaves are changing, because some of them just got really crisp and fell because of how dry we were. This rain will help some of those colors pop as we head throughout the next week. So we'll be in the 70s throughout the weekend, but upper 70s. So we will be back to warmer than average and gorgeous conditions if you're tailgating outside of Ford Field. Go Lions!
All right, Ashley, thank you so much. Speaking of football, high school football also full into fall. Here's Joel with a preview.
Working together to score and support a special needs classmate. Coming up, we'll introduce you to the Almont Raiders and one small act of kindness that is bigger than football.
And Mr. Oski are awesome in football this year. That was a good run.
.53 here on Wednesday morning. Above the playing field at Almont High School is a sign that reads, "Tradition starts here. Kindness starts at practice." That's where you'll find special needs senior Ben Schurig front and center every Monday afternoon and lined up at running back on Friday night every season. Here's Zoe Sebastianelli with our leader of the week.
It's about inclusion, including everyone.
There's no question. Ben Schurig is all in with Almont.
Oh, you need help with the straps? Yeah. I got you. Oh, haven't been at practice. Puts a smile on everyone's face, always. Like, he's always bringing the energy.
Let's feel the energy, boys. Let's go, baby.
Go.
He just says the funniest things.
I'm talking to you, Mr. Oski.
He has some funny jokes he likes to tell over and over again, and somehow hits every single time.
Go, buddy.
It's just great.
You gonna tackle me?
Ben's bond with the boys began in middle school church. Once their hearts opened, so did the playbook.
You got me. You got me. He brought the idea of, hey, do you think we can pull off a play in a game?
So once a year, the Raiders' most supportive role player
Come on, man!
becomes the centerpiece of the offense.
He has some of our phone numbers, and he'll call us in the offseason and talk to us about his play. He's going to score.
One, jet sweep right.
Jet sweep right for a touchdown.
Yeah.
I'm always next to him, okay? Like, I'm the wing right next to him. We run the jet to the right. It's what he wants. He gets to look at the crowd. He gets to point to the crowd. He gets to cheer. He just loves every part of it.
And he gets them to cheer. Hailed and hoisted as a hero.
Sometimes it feels like it's louder than our actual game, and he deserves every part of it.
I mean, it was amazing to see how happy he was. Like, he was pumped up. I mean, he talks about it, like, always. Anytime you get the chance to talk about football, he talks about his touchdown.
Set, hit!
After scoring against Imlay City, he was not alone.
Everybody knows him. As a matter of fact, last week he had dinner at several restaurants in town. They kind of footed the bill because they were excited about his big touchdown, and he lived it up for a whole week.
Good job, Ben.
Trust in others has paid off in full for Ben's parents.
It's everything. We concluded that education's important, but socialization is paramount.
Are you going the whole way for a touchdown?
Ben can't be alone.
All right, here we go. Mouth guards in, knee pads up.
Not when a team has his back.
Fear breeds hatred, and so I think it's just so important for them to see that we're all the same. We're all people.
Go.
Running alongside him down the field, growing up together.
Things like this are bigger than sports.
The things you learn, the things you see, the things you do for other people, the things people do for you, it's always more important.
In Almont, Joel Sebastian Local 4.
Gosh, what an incredible story, and big props to the rest of the team out there in Almont. We have another great matchup for you here on Local 4. The Local 4 Game of the Week brought to you by State Champs Game Time Live and presented by Hungry Howie's. On Friday, we'll be in the heart of one of the toughest conferences in Michigan high school football, the OAA Red. Clarkston welcomes Rochester Adams at a clash of 3-1 teams. The game can be streamed for free right here on Local 4 Plus, and of course, always on clickondetroit.com. Also, a bit of a programming alert for you. Our regularly scheduled State Champs High School Sports Show, airing Saturdays at 10:30, is going to be delayed. That's because NBC is going to be covering the Ryder Cup this weekend. Don't worry, though, you can still catch the show. It's just going to be Sunday at 11:30 following Meet the Press. We are continuing to keep an eye on the weather. Ashley Barrissey joins us at the top of the hour with the very latest. And then we're talking about a growing trend at work. It's called job hugging. And no, it's not floor director Nick hugging me. Plus, a warning out of one Wayne County community how scammers are preying on people who are just excited to celebrate holidays like Halloween and Christmas. More news on Local 4 Plus. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
From downtown Detroit, Local 4 Live starts right now.
Welcome back to Local 4 Live, everybody. I'm Nick Monticelli. Thank you for joining me. We are following some big stories this Wednesday, starting with the weather. Flooding is possible in much of Metro Detroit until tonight. 4-1 meteorologist Ashley Barrissey will be joining us with some information on today's rain and who it's going to impact the most. And then have you heard of the term job hugging? It's apparently the latest trend to hit the job market, why experts say more people are holding on to jobs that they might not like right now. Plus, a live look at Royal Oak where some very special Catholic relics are about to be on display. We're going to start, though, with that headline of the weather because it has been a rainy morning. It is not letting up just yet, and now flooding is actually a real concern.
Right. It was an imminent concern off in Washtenaw County. So, I mean, just a minute ago, we should have seen that flash flood warning lift. And I'm just looking closely at the map, and yeah, that box is gone. So at least the flash flooding right now is not as much a concern for folks closer to Ann Arbor and off towards Whitaker. But we still have some heavy rain in portions of the metro area as far south as Monroe County, lifting into Wayne County. And here's the deal. The widest part of this has kind of just been parked over southeastern Michigan. We haven't seen much movement with the system. And so the rain has just been very persistent and steady. And so let's go ahead and take a closer look at the heavier pockets. And just to the east of US 23 down into Monroe County is where we still continue downriver to have some of the heaviest concerns. Now, Monroe did have a flood advisory that lifted right around 7:45, which is kind of surprising because of the persistent rain. But flood watches are still in effect all the way until 8 o'clock tonight for the heart of our metro area, Wayne, Oakland, Macomb counties. So the most populated portion of southeastern Michigan could continue to see some of that flooding as that system will slowly work its way into that area. We're already dealing with rain in those counties, but I'm just saying the heavier portion. So when you're driving and you see standing water, here's some tips for you. We always say turn around, don't drown, but you really do need to take it seriously because as storm drains get overwhelmed, we're adding to the depth of the water, not just what's fallen from the sky, but then you're adding to that depth. So 6 inches of rain, or standing water, I should say, can sweep a person away, and 12 inches could take away a car or SUV. So if you don't know that depth, I mean, what could appear as an inch or two could be about a foot, and then you're stranded. Right now, live look outside at downtown Detroit, and it is a very gray, gloomy day with those raindrops on the camera lens. It's a mild start to your morning, mid to upper 60s, but here's the deal, it just doesn't get a whole lot warmer than that. So 71 for the afternoon high today. However, that's where we should be this September. But we're in and out of the rain chances, as you see. So we'll continue to time out what's ahead for the afternoon and beyond in just a few minutes.
Gotcha. Okay, Ashley, thank you so much. We do want to get to some breaking news now out of Dallas, where 3 people have been shot at an immigration office. There's a lot of activity out there. The acting ICE director just confirmed the shooting, saying preliminary information is that it was the work of a sniper. 3 people were shot. The shooter is dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. We're not sure, though, the conditions of the victims, but we do know they have been taken to a hospital. We're going to keep an eye on this and get you some updates throughout the show as we get them. Let's take a look now at the rest of your local headlines here. The clock is ticking, especially in Lansing. State lawmakers have 1 week to pass a budget or the government will shut down. Lawmakers failed to meet the July 1st budget deadline, leaving schools and government agencies with a lot of unknowns. Jordan Hermione is a Capitol reporter for Bridge, Michigan. She explained earlier how both the House and the Senate have 2 budgets that are several $billion apart.
The Senate Democrats are proposing in all, including with schools, which are a separate budget from funding the entire state government, an $84.5 billion budget out of the Senate and a $78.5 billion budget out of the House. Roads has been a big issue, as you've noted. And for right now, it's looking like it's crunch time. I'm totally anticipating that we're going to see them doing long session days this week and potentially even adding more to the calendar, like we saw this past Monday with the Senate having a rare in-person session day on a Monday, which is not typical for Lansing.
Hermione says to get it done on time, everyone's going to have to make concessions. Lawmakers have until October 1st to cut a deal on that state budget. And having no budget is forcing schools to figure out how to keep programs running, like free meals for students. A decision over who should cover the cost, parents or schools, is weighing on many districts. Northville Schools met last night to decide what is next for its students. Preman reports on what families need to know.
It was a busy night here for Northville Public Schools. The district voted to approve short-term funding to continue to provide school meals for all. This is an issue that's facing districts across the state. We are now 1 week away from that budget deadline. And if the budget is not passed, we could be facing a government shutdown, which means programs like free school meals for all could be in jeopardy.
We are going to eat what we have to for the short term. But that is really not the way that businesses work.
In a unanimous decision, Northville Public Schools voted to fund school meals through the month of October. Districts across the state are in the same predicament. Without a state budget, programs like free school meals for all are in jeopardy.
Some of the kids in the schools are actually asking about this too, and they're kind of anxious about it. It's not something the kids should be worrying about, but unfortunately it is.
The clock is ticking for lawmakers in Lansing. We are now 1 week away from the deadline to pass a state budget, and so far the state House and state Senate seem to be at an impasse.
My budget team will continue to participate in all the conversations, but putting up the votes and actually passing the budget is the legislature's responsibility.
Meanwhile, at a local level, school districts are trying to make sure students have food to eat.
This is fundamentally and foundationally on the backs of every single person who chose to run for elected office. This budget should have been to us by July 1st. It's 3 months late. The 7 of you don't want to have to make these decisions. You shouldn't have to. One way or another, you shouldn't have to. We should have had our answer July 1. We did not.
And when it comes to what's happening in Lansing, Speaker of the House Matt Hall, who's a Republican, will be holding a press conference later today to discuss the budget. Very few details have been provided, but we'll have a full breakdown for you tonight at 5. In Northville, I'm Priya Mann, Local 4.
On federal funding set to run out on October 1st. The House passed a bill to keep the government open until November 21st. The Senate rejected the bill and proposals from Democrats. President Trump was supposed to meet with Democratic leaders, but canceled, calling demands unserious and ridiculous. Back home now, an update to a deadly crash on I-96 in Novi. We first brought this to you as breaking news yesterday morning. Police confirmed 2 people died in that crash near the Beck Road exit. They say one of the cars was driving slowly on the freeway when another car slammed into it, starting a fire. The drivers were the only people in the cars. Well, the price is climbing and layoffs making headlines. More workers are playing it safe, holding tight to the jobs they have, even if they're not happy with them. A study from Forbes says many Americans are shifting from job hopping to what experts are now calling job hugging, where workers are clinging to their current jobs, not because they love them, but because they're worried about the economy and job security. The study says the amount of people quitting their jobs has flatlined at about 2%, but optimism about new jobs is at its lowest level ever. Meanwhile, layoffs aren't just making headlines, they're piling up. So far this year, companies have cut more than 800,000 jobs. That's the highest number we have seen since the pandemic. And when you combine it with weaker job growth over the summer, it explains why so many people feel like now is not the time to gamble on a career move. So, what does this mean for workers trying to balance security and growth? And how can you avoid getting stuck in this job hugging mode? Although we can always use a good hug. Brandy Shade, the CEO of Strengthology, is here. Brandy, thank you so much. Job hugging, I haven't ever heard of it, but it makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. Whenever you have macroeconomic instability, people are going to seek stability. And right now we're in that situation where people are feeling very vulnerable still, even, this is a lot of aftermath after COVID that we're seeing. But we had a lot of layoffs this year with some really big visible companies, and people are sensing that, jobs are hard to come by. And so they're clinging on to them. And this year, just holding on to them and, not trying to move to a different company or a different role.
Okay, so then what does this do for workers' mental health and productivity?
Yeah, I think it's the way that they're going to look at it that's going to affect that. So if they're looking at, oh my gosh, this is going to last forever and I'm never going to be able to take another job again, or, step into a new ladder rung, that's really difficult way of thinking about it. But if they are saying, look, this is temporary, this is a chapter, this is just, what I need to do right now in order to make things happen for my family, I think they're fine, with I think a lot of people are resound to that's just what you need to do and be, from a pragmatic standpoint.
One trend that we've noticed, that I've noticed at least with the younger generation, is that the loyalty to your employer is kind of out the window, and it's more about hopping to build or to climb that ladder and earn a larger salary, which for an individual is totally fine. How does that, though, play into this, knowing that you've got so much insecurity you might not be able to move around?
Yeah, I think what they're seeing is that their parents didn't have stability. When companies are having layoffs every year, every 2 years, or every 6 months, to make the books look good for the next year, I think the kids are going, why would I have loyalty to a company that's not loyal to me? And so what they're doing is going, I'm going to go to a role where I can be pushed and where I can grow and get the skills that I need. And then I'm going to go to another one to grow and get the skills that I need. And they just don't have that sense of loyalty because they haven't seen it in return from the companies that their parents worked at.
Sure. I know you have a crystal ball that tells you exactly what the economy is going to do. So what's your best guess on how long we're going to be hugging onto these jobs?
I think it's changing finally. I work with a group here in Dallas-Fort Worth called Executives in Transition, and we have had 70 plus landings already this year in that group, which is a lot larger than last year. It's almost double from what last year was, and it's almost double from the year before that. So we're seeing so much more movement this year. We're seeing activity among recruiters. We're seeing jobs open up that weren't opened up. We're seeing leadership positions open up, which we were seeing, in a decline over the last couple of years. So although it's still slow, although it's still hard, I do feel like it is opening up more this year. There were some major layoffs earlier this year, but since then it just seems like stuff has quieted down a bit, and people are getting hired and getting interviews specifically, and then getting hired more easily the second half of this year.
So I am concerned, and tell me if you think I'm right or wrong here, that if someone is hugging onto a job for longer than they anticipated, and then something comes around, some opportunity is there, even if it's not the right one for them, they might jump at it. What do you think?
They may jump at it, but when you say right for them, you've really got to think about what exactly are you saying? Because if their family is struggling with the salary that they took for the last 2 years, and this just has a higher salary, even if it's not the best fit job for them, that may be more right for them in the economic situation that they're in.
Are you seeing a lot of that now, where maybe they're not happiest in the role, but at least it's the salary they need?
Yes, absolutely. People have said, look, I will find something that I love later. Right now, I just need to pay the bills and make sure my family's taken care of.
Interesting. Okay, well, thank you so much for your time today. This is fascinating. Job hugging, and it's not the hugging I was hoping I was going to get.
Thank you.
Take care of yourself. Have a good one. Still had a warning out of Wayne County how scammers are trying to take advantage of people excited to celebrate upcoming holidays like Halloween and Christmas. And we're keeping an eye on the rain falling in Metro Detroit and who is still at risk of flooding. A very rainy Belleville to start your Wednesday. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Don't just hand over your money. That's the message Livonia is sending after seeing an uptick of scammers targeting people. The city tells us the bad guys are impersonating city departments while pretending to sell tickets, vendor spaces, or requesting payments for services. Shantae Passmore is breaking all this down for us and asking why the city is seeing this disturbing trend.
So why are we seeing this all of a sudden? Well, we are told that scammers know that families are looking forward to all of the fall fun activities. They know that families are ready to celebrate Halloween and Thanksgiving and Christmas, and that is why they prey on all of that holiday cheer. So what type of scams are we talking about? Well, the city of Livonia says scammers will post online under certain city departments pages like Parks and Rec and write how they're unable to make it to the event. And they'll say something like, you know, we don't want the tickets to go to waste and we're trying to sell them. The problem, sometimes Livonia hosts free events, so no tickets are really necessary. And if you're not sure, you can always call the city to double check. But this goes beyond Livonia. The Better Business Bureau tells me 1 in 5 people either encounter or are targeted by a scammer every single day. If you are a victim, the BBB offers a survival toolkit.
And that will walk you through. If some sort of scam happened to you, it'll ask you questions and then it'll give you a path. Again, you might not always get your money back, but it can help you. Maybe it'll share even an article with you that's going to give you some tips on how to recover, what to do next.
And admittedly, I have also fallen for a scam and felt so embarrassed. And the BBB says most people often do. That's why in part it created that survival toolkit. It also has a scam tracker where you can find the latest scams happening in your area, or better yet, how to report one. In the newsroom, I'm Shantae Passmore, Local 4.
All right, Shantae, thank you. Every few seconds, someone needs a blood transfusion. There's a chance for you to help someone in need tomorrow, thanks to DPD. The 4th Precinct is holding a blood drive at the Southwest Public Safety Center that runs from noon until 6. No appointment is needed. The Red Cross says the greatest need for blood is type O, but all types are welcome to donate. And thank you to everyone who helped us go for it and learn what it means to be fire safe. We teamed up with the Farmington Hills Fire Department, and as always, there was great support from all of you. Participants learned how fast a fire can spread and the most common causes of deadly fires, from smoking, cooking, and electrical issues. Firefighters also reminding everybody to make sure your home smoke detectors are working and the risks of lithium-ion battery fires. If you're interested in learning more, we've got information on clickondetroit.com. The Farmington Hills Fire Department is also hosting an open house on October 4th. Well, if you're already out the door this morning, I'm sure you've noticed it's raining outside all across Metro Detroit. Ashley is going to be back to break down some flooding concerns across our area today.
forewarned weather with Exact Track 4D.
We still need to hold on to the umbrella. Scattered showers will persist throughout the day today, and we still could see some heavy rain at times coming off of a very soggy start this morning. Flooding concerns across the metro area. Tomorrow, we might not be quite done with the rain, but I will say it'll be relatively dry compared to what we have been dealing with throughout the day. So stray shower will linger tomorrow, but otherwise clouds begin to break, especially by Friday. Sunshine returns, and that'll last through the weekend with warming temperatures. So here's a look at the flood watch for Oakland, Macomb, Wayne counties until 8 o'clock tonight. And that's due to the rounds of rain that are still in the forecast as the day progresses. So let's talk more about the flooding impact. So in rural areas, excessive rainfall can raise streams and riverbeds, and water can overflow and cause flash flooding. We saw that early this morning in portions of Washtenaw County, but there still can be impacts in the urban areas. And so when you get in those city limits, water can penetrate soil a lot easier than pavement. And so excessive rain can overwhelm the storm drainage system. We've seen that several times close to Metro Airport earlier this year throughout the summer months. And so we could possibly see something like that happen once again for the remainder of the day. So just be vigilant, check your basement, make sure that the sump pump's keeping up with all this rain today, because there have been pockets picking up upward of 3 inches of rain for today. That's a very short amount of time to get that kind of accumulation. Showers and storms, so off and on. This is not a complete washout throughout the evening, and it will be hit or miss depending where you are. Do want to point out, though, trending a little cooler today, but exactly where we should be for the season, with 71 for the afternoon high. So as we look at clouds and radar, we get a little lull through the afternoon, and then by, I would say, closer to the dinner hour, just before it, probably 3:30, 4 o'clock onward, some more development across the area that could have pockets of embedded heavy rainfall. So that's why we still are going to keep a close eye on the threat for more flooding as the day rolls on. Stray shower can't be ruled out on Thursday, but that would be very minimal. So from flooding to fall foliage, we need the rain for these colors to pop, because a lot of leaves have been just dried out and falling across the area. And so the current fall foliage report nationally showing colors popping across the Rockies and even up into the UP. So we'll zoom in a little closer, giving us a little color in northern lower Michigan, not as much here, but I'll say you can look out your window. You know, we've already started to see some of that change. However, the 1 week outlook puts the UP, at least the western edge of that, at peak color, and we would have widespread color across lower Michigan. And so if you're looking to do a fall color tour, well, maybe the next week or so is your time, depending on where you're traveling across Michigan. So we'll keep you posted on those fall colors. And if you have great pictures of the fall colors, snap them and upload them on My Pics. And you can do that with your Forewarned Weather apps. Really easy. 77 degrees on Friday. There's that sunshine that we're looking for. We'll hold on to it through the weekend. We flirt with 80 this weekend, in fact, thanks to that sun warming things up. Let's also talk Lions. I mean, they're red hot, and we will have some warmer conditions to go along with the game on Sunday. So if you're tailgating outside of Ford Field, plan for 70s as we flirt with 80 into the afternoon. And we will be above average to start the next work week, as we will continue that drier pattern coming off of a very active pattern throughout the first part of this week.
All right, Ashley, thank you so much. Streaming costs are climbing yet again. Several services are all raising their prices, and it could mean a bigger bill in your house starting soon. We'll show you how much more you're going to pay to binge your favorite shows. Welcome back. In Texas, a Cardi B meet and greet left dozens of fans sick from the extreme heat. Hundreds of fans waited outside a Walmart for hours. Walmart handed out free water and fans, but many people were still overwhelmed by that heat. First responders say 30 people were treated for heat-related issues. We'll get ready to stretch the streaming budget even more. Disney, Hulu, and ESPN are raising prices. The plans are increasing by $2 or $3. The cheapest Disney plan with ads will now cost about $12. No ads will cost almost $20. This is the third time in 3 years Disney raised its streaming prices. The new prices start on October 1st. And YouTube is testing changes for its permanent ban policy. Some accounts banned in 2020 for COVID and election-related content will be allowed to return. YouTube says it's a limited pilot project and open to specific creators. The company also added a feature with links under videos for viewers to fact-check that content. Okay, coming up, a rare and sacred visit to Royal Oak. The relics of St. Therese are arriving. We're going to talk about the century-long legacy and why this tour is so special for Metro Detroit. We're heading to Royal Oak next.
From downtown Detroit, Local 4 Live starts right now.
Welcome back to Local 4 Live. I'm Nick Monticelli. Thank you so much for watching. We're going to start with that breaking news out of Dallas, where 3 people have been shot at an immigration and U.S. Customs Enforcement detention facility. The acting ICE director there says the shooter is dead and appears to have killed himself. The Homeland Security Secretary says there are multiple injuries and deaths, but did not say more. You're looking live right now at pictures from across the street. ICE says they are working to determine if the victims are detainees or employees. We'll continue to follow this breaking news or bring you any updates throughout the day here on Local 4 and click on Detroit.com. Well, before anything, let's take a live look at the big board opening on Wall Street about 1 minute ago. You can see stocks currently up 0.23% now, but as I say every single day, it is very hard to see what the market is going to do in the first 60 or 90 seconds after opening. We're going to talk about those numbers changing as the day goes on. Wall Street, though, pulled back yesterday, ending a 3-day streak of record closes. The Dow fell 0.2%, the S&P 500 fell 0.6%, and the Nasdaq slipped a whole 0.9%. We'll keep an eye on those numbers as the day goes on as well. Well, an incredibly special tour is coming to the National Shrine of the Little Flower Basilica in Royal Oak. The relics of Saint Therese Lisieux will be at the Basilica from October 1st to 8th, marking the 100th anniversary of her canonization and the Basilica itself, which was founded in her honor. Saint Therese, known as the Little Flower, was born in France in 1873 and joined a monastery at just 15 years old. She lived a life full of love and faith, teaching a simple way to trust God. She died at 24 but left a huge impact, becoming a saint in 1925 and later a doctor of the church, one of the highest honors in Catholicism. Her relics have traveled the world, drawing millions, and now they're back to inspire a new generation. So to talk about this amazing honor is Father John Benton, rector of the National Shrine of the Little Flower Basilica. Thank you so much for joining us.
Sure, thank you for having me.
Before we jump into this conversation, I do want to put a photo up so people understand what a big deal this is. The last time the relics were here in our area, it was a one-day event, and you had 75,000 people show up in just one day, flooding the church and the streets of Royal Oak, and that's just one day. So my understanding is because it was such a big deal then, 26 years later, you're like, maybe we should have her for more than just one day.
That's correct. That's correct.
So what are the plans? How is this going to roll out?
So basically, she's going to arrive in our big opening, her feast day, October 1st.
Okay.
And we'll have several masses, celebrating masses throughout the day. I think we have 3 masses on October 1st, and then we'll have veneration throughout the day. And that pattern will follow for the next 7 days as well.
Gotcha.
So there will be 3 or 4 masses each day and veneration between the masses.
I see. We've got some video that I like to show, kind of showing her traveling the world.
Yes.
Can you kind of just give us some background on why this is such a big deal?
For us at Shrine, at the National Shrine of Little Flower, it's a big deal for us in particular because, of course, she's our patroness. And so there's a great devotion throughout the world. She's one of the top 5 saints that have followings of devotees for her. But I think she's very attractive to all people, the young and the old, every age group, because of her spirituality. And her spirituality talks about showing God's great love in little ways.
So as we look at these photos, and these are from Cambodia, all over the world, there was one image of her in an airport in Salt Lake City. She draws massive crowds wherever she goes. Is that normal?
Yes. Yes, it's very normal.
But forgive my question, I don't mean to sound crass, but why? What is so special?
She started out as, as a young girl, of course. But to be honest, she was a little bit spoiled as a young child. And then she had that beautiful epiphany when she was, I think, 5 or 6 years old on Christmas Eve. And she realized at that point that there's a world outside other than little Therese.
Other than herself.
Exactly, yeah. And through that, she grew closer to God and developed this deep, abiding relationship with God. And she developed that relationship. And as she grew in her spirituality, she came to understand the importance of the others rather than herself.
Gotcha. So for people who don't understand this, when we talk about relics, we're actually talking about portions of her remains that travel. Is that correct?
Right.
Okay.
In this case, it's the majority of her body in what we call the reliquary, and that's what you see there. It looks like a chest. And in there are her bones. And veneration, let me speak to adoration versus generation. Adoration belongs only to God. So we adore, we worship, and we praise God, the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, alone in the Catholic tradition. Veneration is we give honor to saints and to angels because of their uniqueness, that they lived a life of virtue, a life of holiness, and we see them as a model that we should imitate in our lives.
Sure. We're looking at video right now of your church there in Royal Oak. Can you talk about logistics? Like where is she going to be? How are you going to handle the crowds? Because you had 75,000 people in one day. So how is this going to work?
So we've been planning this for 2 years, believe it or not. And so everybody is excited, not only at the shrine, but as we priests go out to the neighborhood and throughout the Archdiocese of Detroit, Metro Detroit, we're hearing all this positive feedback. So it will be a little bit crazy out there, But
we're talking like lines down the
oh
street,
yeah,
right?
there would be lines down the street. Last time she was here, people were lined up along 12 Mile, along Woodward. The weather was not so good, but they stood there and waited in line outside. But we're going to have that flow going through the Basilica one way counterclockwise.
Okay.
And we'll have plenty of ushers and security leading the people through.
I see. Now, is this a ticketed event? Do you just show up? How does it work?
You just show up. So
Okay.
we asked for the last couple of months, we've been asking people to register.
Okay.
Just not so much that we're limited in space, we have plenty of space, but just to know how many volunteers we'll have at each shift.
I see.
And so, so even if you don't have a chance to register, please show up, because we have some seating that isn't on the system to register. They will have additional seating, so there's plenty of room.
Are you anticipating that this 75,000 that you had 26 years ago will get spread out over many days now, or are you going to have that many more people now because there's that many days?
I'm hoping both,
Okay.
but I think it'll be stretched out more, which means it will be very tired at the end of the week.
Sure.
But it's all good.
But also, it's more of an
But,
intimate opportunity
yes,
because you're not crammed in there now.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, you can imagine what 70,000, 75,000 going through in like a 14, 15-hour period.
Right.
I mean, it was just like pushing people through.
I can only imagine. Okay, what's your message to everybody who either A, knows about this or doesn't? If they've never heard of St. Therese, why might they want to come down and visit?
I think you will be fulfilled spiritually, and it will enhance your own spiritual journey in your life by drawing closer to God through this young lady who, as I said, began as her spirituality began as a child, essentially, and she died at 24. And to come to know her, to learn about her, she has a beautiful book written, A Story of a Soul, and explains all of that in there and how she grew closer to God. And everyone who has ever come to the shrine, anyone who knows St. Therese says she has a great impact on their own faith life and their own faith journey.
Gotcha. Okay, so she'll be there October 1st to the 8th. What are the times? Have we settled on that just yet?
9 a.m. until 9 p.m.
Okay, 12 hours a day. You're
12
going
hours
strong.
a day, that's right, yeah.
Okay, Father Benton, thank you so much for coming in today. I
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
your time.
Thank you,
Thank you. Well, coming up, and Jimmy Kimmel back on the air after a week-long suspension. What he says regarding that suspension and his sharp accusations against the Trump administration when we come back. Welcome back. Late night host Jimmy Kimmel returns to most ABC channels last night after nearly a week-long suspension. Kimmel received public criticism from the chair of the Federal Communications Commission over his comments about Charlie Kirk. The move to take him off air sparked free speech debates nationwide. Kimmel said after many discussions with Disney, they decided to bring the show back. Kimmel returned to a standing ovation and got emotional during his monologue, saying he never meant to make light of Kirk's death. However, Kimmel did accuse the Trump administration of trying to pressure broadcasters to take him off the air.
The President of the United States made it very clear he wants to see me and the hundreds of people who work here fired from our jobs. Our leader celebrates Americans losing their livelihoods because he can't take a joke. He was somehow able to squeeze Colbert out of CBS. Then he turned his sights on me, and now he's openly rooting for NBC to fire Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers and the hundreds of Americans who work for their shows who don't make millions of dollars. And I hope that if that happens, or if there's even any hint of that happening, you will be 10 times as loud as you were this week. We have to speak out against this.
And while Kimmel returned to most ABC stations, Sinclair Broadcast Group and Nexstar Media, they are not letting the show air on their ABC-affiliated channels. Well, a disturbing case of AI extortion raises new questions about how cases like these are handled. Take a look at this disturbing message. I wish you'd respond to my questions. I really don't want to resort to posting things online. Federal court documents say that's what a Farmington Hills man sent to a woman along with AI-generated explicit images. Erica Erickson has been tracking this story.
Yeah, neighbors here on West Commerce Road said they knew something was seriously wrong when they saw local police and the feds roll up on this home with guns.
This is up in America, man.
This guy says he knew the FBI wouldn't show up at this Commerce Township home, guns drawn.
Look at the weapons.
If it weren't for, in his words, something pretty messed up.
They had assault weapons and...
They had the riot shields, they had the door knocker.
Tuesday morning, neighbors say the feds busting down the door of this home on West Commerce Road to nab 36-year-old Joshua Justin Stillman, now charged federally with cyberstalking and interstate threats to extort. Stillman accused of using the Instagram accounts Friend Blender and This DIY Guy to stalk women, sending AI-generated nude and pornographic images to a social media influencer. The feds say, and while the woman at first tried to stop him with humor, the messages becoming vulgar. According to the complaint, Stillman threatening to release the AI porno photos if she didn't respond, saying things like, quote, "Can you play along though? Easiest way to get rid of me, LOL," and quote, "I want to know some naughty things about you. I really don't want to resort to posting things online. I have much more than you've seen." And in what's much too graphic to read, including sexual assault threats, the feds say the influencer began taking screenshots, but becoming so worried about her family's safety, removing personal information from her website and carrying a weapon.
The old way of doing this seemed to be more of a kind of a broad-based attack, if you will, or broad-based kind of phishing. And now we're seeing that real spear phishing where they're going after certain individuals.
Stillman threatening another woman, allegedly posting porn videos online without her consent. FBI Detroit working with FBI Portland to identify Stillman, who has a bench warrant out of Romulus, a recent mental health call out of Livonia. Experts warn if you receive messages like these, don't engage, don't pay, document, and report.
Definitely report it.
Now, according to the complaint, one of the victims reports she had been talking to other women that Stillman reportedly threatened going back to 2019. In Commerce Township, I'm Erica Erickson, Local 4.
Erica, thank you very much for that. Ashley is going to come back to track the flooding risk across Metro Detroit today, and a Texas camp set to reopen after devastating floods that killed dozens of campers and counselors, but not everybody is happy about it. .46 here over in Texas. Camp Mystic is unveiling its plans to reopen near the site where 27 girls and counselors died in a flood earlier this year. I'm sure you remember those fast rising floodwaters of the Guadalupe River that killed several campers and counselors. Camp said upon reopening, they'll unveil a memorial to the people who died in the flooding. However, some parents of the victims are objecting to the plan to reopen. The camp is set to open next summer. All right, let's take a look at our forecast here at home. You can see raindrops still on the lens. Flooding is a concern all across Detroit this Wednesday. Asher can tell you all about it. Hey, Ash.
Now, forewarned weather with Exact Track 4D.
We still need to hold on to the umbrella. Scattered showers will persist throughout the day today, and we still could see some heavy rain at times coming off of a very soggy start this morning. Flooding concerns across the metro area. Tomorrow, we might not be quite done with the rain, but I will say it'll be relatively dry compared to what we have been dealing with throughout the day. So stray shower will linger tomorrow, but otherwise clouds begin to break, especially by Friday. Sunshine returns, and that'll last through the weekend with warming temperatures. So here's a look at the flood watch for Oakland, Macomb, Wayne counties until 8 o'clock tonight. And that's due to the rounds of rain that are still in the forecast as the day progresses. So let's talk more about the flooding impact. So in rural areas, excessive rainfall can raise streams and riverbeds, and water can overflow and cause flash flooding. We saw that early this morning in portions of Washtenaw County, but there still can be impacts in the urban areas. And so when you get in those city limits, water can penetrate soil a lot easier than pavement. And so excessive rain can overwhelm the storm drainage system. We've seen that several times close to Metro Airport earlier this year throughout the summer months. And so we could possibly see something like that happen once again for the remainder of the day. So just be vigilant, check your basement, make sure that the sump pump's keeping up with all this rain today, because there have been pockets picking up upward of 3 inches of rain for today. That's a very short amount of time to get that kind of accumulation. Showers and storms, so off and on. This is not a complete washout throughout the evening, and it will be hit or miss depending where you are. Do want to point out, though, trending a little cooler today, but exactly where we should be for the season, with 71 for the afternoon high. So as we look at clouds and radar, we get a little lull through the afternoon, and then by, I would say, closer to the dinner hour, just before it, probably 3:30, 4 o'clock onward, some more development across the area that could have pockets of embedded heavy rainfall. So that's why we still are going to keep a close eye on the threat for more flooding as the day rolls on. Stray shower can't be ruled out on Thursday, but that would be very minimal. So from flooding to fall foliage, we need the rain for these colors to pop, because a lot of leaves have been just dried out and falling across the area. And so the current fall foliage report nationally showing colors popping across the Rockies and even up into the UP. So we'll zoom in a little closer, giving us a little color in northern lower Michigan, not as much here, but I'll say you can look out your window. You know, we've already started to see some of that change. However, the 1 week outlook puts the UP, at least the western edge of that, at peak color, and we would have widespread color across lower Michigan. And so if you're looking to do a fall color tour, well, maybe the next week or so is your time, depending on where you're traveling across Michigan. So we'll keep you posted on those fall colors. And if you have great pictures of the fall colors, snap them and upload them on My Pics. And you can do that with your forewarned weather apps. Really easy. 77 degrees on Friday. There's that sunshine that we're looking for. We'll hold on to it through the weekend. We flirt with 80 this weekend, in fact, thanks to that sun warming things up. Let's also talk Lions. I mean, they're red hot, and we will have some warmer conditions to go along with the game on Sunday. So if you're tailgating outside of Ford Field, plan for 70s as we flirt with 80 into the afternoon, and we will be above average to start the next work week, as we will continue that drier pattern coming off of a very active pattern throughout the first part of this week.
All right, Ash, thank you much. When we come back, a look at the latest ranking of the top high school football teams in Michigan. The Power Poll is next. Another big week of high school football on the horizon, and there's a shakeup in our weekly power poll with our partners over at State Champs. Hobie Artigue has a look at this week's top 10.
You know what time it is. Week number 5 for our Local 4 State Champs Power Poll, joined by Lauren Plant. And Lauren, maybe the most seismic changes we've had thus far in the Power Poll.
That's right. Things change, but they also stay the same.
Yes, they do. OLSM and King out of the top 10. Teams 10 through 6 right here. 10, 9, and 8 all on the west side of the state this week.
Yeah, well, so East Kentwood falls to Rockford, so that's where they are. Rockford, of course, now is going to take on Granville this week, so we'll see how these things stay the next couple of weeks.
Clarkston lost to Harper Woods a few weeks ago, but since then they have looked strong, and they come in at number 7 this week.
That's right, so they are up 3 slots. They took out Troy 41-0. Wolves are part of this week's Game Time Live matchup versus number 20 Rochester Adams.
And Harper Woods stays undefeated. However, the game they had against Stony Creek, very, very close in the final seconds of that game.
That's right. So they're up from 8. They continue to win. They beat Stony Creek 28-27. Remember, this is a Division 4 team, and they've already beat 2 Division 1 teams already this season.
Taking a look at our top 5, at number 5, Davison, 60-plus points that they scored in Week 4.
64-42, the final over Saginaw Heritage. I want to give some props to the tailback Jacob Garris. Ran for 200 yards, had 3 scores. Cards are 4-0 as they meet Saginaw United.
And at number 4, welcome to the top 5, Saline. Close game that they were playing against Dexter, but after it was tied up, wasn't even close.
They continue to climb the rankings, so it was a good Dexter squad, although they fall out of our top 20 now. 61-34 ended up being the final. And how about the Mr. Football candidate, Tommy Carr? 9 touchdowns through the air. That sets an MHSAA record. And if you're a fan of the high school sports show, check out our special time on Sunday at 11:30 here on Local 4. We have a sit down with Mr. Carr and a surprise at the end of that.
No surprise, number 3, Hudsonville, because they just keep on winning, too.
That's right. Up from number 4, they beat Harlem West Ottawa. The senior quarterback, Brady Van Lake, continues to impress, and they've got Jenison.
So many changes, but not in our top 2. At number 2, again, DCC, after taking care of Orchard Lake St. Mary's.
Well, if you saw it, you know. CC dominated Orchard Lake St. Mary's on Friday night. The senior outside linebacker, Josh Atiamo, had the pick 6 and 8 tackles. They head to take on Warren De La Salle now.
And staying put at number 1, Cass Tech with another victory.
So the Cardiac Kids of 2025 continue to win, and they did it, even though it was played over 2 days. 27-22 was the final. Cass over King in that rivalry, and of course, Mr. Football, CJ Sadler with 3 touchdowns, including a punt return for a TD.
Plenty more coming up on Local 4 and on State Champs as we count you down to kickoff in week number 5.
Check it out.
Thank you, gentlemen. We have another great matchup for our Local 4 Game of the Week, brought to you by State Champs Game Time Live and presented by Hungry Howie's. Friday will be in the heart of one of the toughest conferences in Michigan high school football, the OAA Red. Clarkston welcomes Rochester Adams in a clash of 3-1 teams. The game can be streamed for free right here on Local 4 Plus and on clickondetroit.com. Also, a bit of a programming note for you. Our regularly scheduled State Champs High School Sports Show, airing Saturdays at 10:30, is going to be delayed. NBC is covering the Ryder Cup this weekend, but don't worry, you can still watch the high school show. We're just going to push that to Sunday at 11:30 following Meet the Press. But you know what show we would never, ever, 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 ever push? Live in the D.
I appreciate that. Good morning.
How you doing, Tati?
On this rainy day.
It's, as Ashley said, it's not a good hair day.
It is not a good hair day. This is a lot of hairspray.
Is it?
A lot of hairspray,
Okay.
trying to hold everything together.
All right.
You just had Hobie talking about sports.
Yep.
We are going to be talking about Major League Baseball.
With Hobie?
No.
Oh, okay.
On the show. I'm sure you heard about them using computerized robotic umpires-ish.
I saw it.
What do you think about that?
I don't mind it, actually.
Really?
Yeah, because
Okay.
there's, in my opinion, there needs to be more oversight in analysts, looking back on some of these calls. Sometimes I think that these umps are, they're calling balls and strikes when they shouldn't be.
Right.
The computers, they know it, and if they mess up, you can go back and check it.
Okay. All right. That's a really good point. And I'll say this, Steve, our executive producer, was telling me about a call that was made yesterday when the Tigers were playing that would have been in our favor if we actually had a digital umpire, something like that we could go back and, you know.
I know, I don't want to get rid of the umps. I just want a little more oversight.
Okay, a little bit more accuracy.
Yes.
You think it's a lot more different than an instant replay?
No.
No, it's the same thing, right?
I mean, look at a football game. We can go back and look at 72,000 cameras.
That's true.
And make a call. We should be able to do the same for baseball.
I think, okay, you're convincing me because you know I have like
you were on the other side of the fence, huh?
I have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with AI and cameras.
I'm not saying we take any jobs out. I'm just saying we'll just, as I've learned, AI and computers are a tool.
Okay.
It's a tool.
Can you come on the show and can we continue this?
Sure.
It is a tool. It is a tool. So much more coming up on Live in the D. I'm sorry, we're getting the 10-second.
Oh, is that what
mark,
Nick is
but
doing
I'm really
over there?
excited about
Giving
this.
us the old look. You got 10 seconds. Cut us down. There we go.
Wrap it up.
All right. Thank you for joining us on Local 4 Live. More news and weather ahead on Local 4 Plus. Live in the D is next on Local 4. Make it a great Wednesday, everybody.
Today on Live in the D, do you have a brilliant idea for a product but just need some money to make it happen? This could be your chance. We'll tell you about a competition for the best startup pitches with $4 million up for grabs. How it works, who can apply, and how it can be a game changer for your idea. Plus, more and more Gen Zers are choosing to rent instead of buying a home, what their choices mean for the country's future, and ultimately yours. It's all coming up today on Live in the D at 11 a.m.
Rain, well, maybe not go away. We needed this rain, but we could have some heavy downpours as the day rolls on. So just keep an eye out for some localized flooding on the roads. But temperatures are where we should be, at least for this point in the season. We top out in the low 70s. And so a few scattered showers could linger tomorrow, but we will begin to dry out throughout the day. Sunshine returns as early as Friday, and we're going to take that through the weekend along with a warming trend. We'll flirt with 80 by Saturday.